Hello, I am Zinfogel. Alright, I am back from my vacation, so we can catch up on the January 2022 data mine. In this video, we are going to talk about Renegade Cynthia, New Year's Sabrina, New Year's Volkner, and Lucas. I already covered the new grids back in December. Well then, let's get started. Following the chronological release order, first up we have Renegade Cynthia and Giratina, a Ghost-type Master Fair tech. Renegade Cynthia is important because she heralds the introduction of zones. Evidently, main series mechanics were not stopping DNA from power creeping units in their own game, so they just made up a field effect unique to Masters. Cynthia's niche is Ghost Wish, which summons Ghost Zone. A zone is functionally identical to terrain. When it's active, it boosts the damage of its respective typing by 50%. Zones are a separate category from weather and terrain. You can have all three active at the same time. And Ghost Wish is a trainer move, so even when Giratina flinches or whatever, you can still execute it. The deal with zones is that they royally fucked up tier lists. It's not a mechanic we were expecting. If you look at the most top tier strikers, almost all of them can enhance their damage through a field effect. And this is what separates units like Lear from Custom Diantha. Field effects boost their damage to another level. Zones mean that DNA can release a field effect to improve a specific typing whenever they feel like. Ghost Zone massively improves Anniversary Lily, for example. I recall back in her analysis that I called her average, and I stand by that. I very explicitly complained about her damage ceiling, but Ghost Zone breaks Lily's limit. And with Signasud Lusamine as a partner, Lunala is now officially the highest DPS in the game. Lily's raw strength alone allows that team composition to succeed, in spite it's not very synergistic. Cynthia's most contentious perk is Ghost Zone, so we will spend a fair amount of time talking about how it improves the viability of other sync pairs, because that in and of itself improves Cynthia's value. So I am undeniably a Cynthia stan. She is the kind of unit I would pull for regardless of viability. So I have a 1-5 Renegade Cynthia. She eviscerates Ghostweek content, so she's fine there. However, a properly invested 6-star EX 3-5 Renegade Cynthia has enough indiscriminate power to off-type 2K Master Mode and Legendary Arenas. What I am trying to get at is that Cynthia is a great unit when invested. I think 1-5 Archie is a better pull than 1-5 Renegade Cynthia. At 1-5, Cynthia is purely an enabler. She is plagued by a handful of issues. Now, Giratina has a phenomenal stat spread. Good offenses, good bulk, good speed, no complaints here. Cynthia's trainer move is one of those funny one-click to maximize your offense deals. You gain +4 attack and +4 special attack and +3 crit. Cynthia is a mixed striker, so she needs a little bit of help capping out her offense. For example, through Palentine's Dawn, Ingo, Sawyer, or Volkner. But for all intents and purposes, Cynthia is self-sufficient. This trainer move comes with a downside. It drops Giratina's defenses by 1 stage, which cripples its bulk. If you want Cynthia to tank, you have to be wary of this. Cynthia's moves are Shadow Ball and Shadow Force, an identical kit to Morty and Driftbeam. Shadow Ball is your standard reliable offense. It has a 20% chance to debuff special defense and enhance subsequent attacks. But as far as 3-bar moves are concerned, it's fairly weak. On the other hand, we have Shadow Force. This is a 2-turn quick move. When you use it, you enter a state where Giratina is immune to all damage except the sync moves. Shadow Force snaps automatically. You cannot control when it lands. However, this move is incredibly strong. It has a similar damage quality to 4-bar moves. The issue remains that it's a 2-turn move, and these moves are not easy to use. First off, when you click Shadow Force, you advance the sync countdown, but when it damages the enemy, it doesn't. 2-turn moves like Shadow Force inherently delay your sync. You can get around this problem by, say, executing Shadow Force right before a sync move, so you can get a 6-star EX support buff before Shadow Force snaps. Or you can perform a denial with Shadow Force by predicting the turn sequence. And Cynthia's passives incentivize you to use Shadow Force. Invigorating Shadow 2 gives you gauge when Cynthia enters a Shadow presence, while Super Shadow grants super effective up next. What this means is that Shadow Force deletes stuff on type and it gives you gauge. I like Invigorating Shadow in particular. It has good synergy for dual strike because Shadow Force is a quick move that doesn't consume gauge, so you can have another striker take the gauge and recharge it right away. Cynthia's master passive is Xeno Flag Bearer, a standard master passive at this point. It's a minor offensive and defensive move improvement which can be enhanced when Cynthia's partners share Xeno theme skills. I would not prioritize augmenting this passive by bringing Xeno supports or something. The Xeno support roster is poor, even in account of Cheryl new sync grid. However, Cynthia does have impeccable regional cohesion with Fantina. She is a Xeno Ghost type striker and can become a force to be reckoned with on their Ghost Zone. Lastly, we have a Sundering 9, just like a Signature Leaf. When Cynthia successfully lands a move, she drops the target its defense and or special defense by 1 stage. This passive changes Cynthia's playstyle a bit because it turns her into a bruiser. She can soften up enemies to make subsequent attacks stronger, and given the fact that Cynthia has Shadow Ball on a roll too, that's an innate 60% chance to drop special defense. This results in a funny interaction where Shadow Ball has better DPS than Shadow Force in account of the debuffs. And this is not something Cynthia should be proud of. Shadow Ball is a mediocre move, and Cynthia is easily outperformed by fellow Shadow Ball users like Giovanni and Fantina. Just keep in mind, Shadow Ball is better on the long term, while Shadow Force is more of a closing move. Lastly, Cynthia's sync multiplier is boosted by Ghost Zone. Simple and easy, just how we like it. So, the first time I looked at this kit, I immediately noticed that Cynthia has rotation issues. Currently, she is the only source of Ghost Zone, and it's way too good to pass up. So, Cynthia has to include Ghost Wish in her damage cycle. Cynthia has no means of generating gauge outside of Invigorating Shadow, which exacerbates her rotation. And something that happens is that just when you plan to use a second Shadow Force, Ghost Zone is about to wear off, so Cynthia has to spend a turn casting it again. I have played Cynthia a fair bit, and having to use Ghost Wish royally messes with her DPS. Cynthia's kit is at conflict with itself. She is a mixed striker, and one half of her kit encourages her to use Shadow Force, while the other discourages her to. Shadow Force is definitely better than most 2-turn moves, but it doesn't have the raw strength necessary to deny off-type. Cynthia often needs extra damage to score chaos, and this issue is exceptionally noticeable with 1-5 Cynthia off-type. Then therefore, I think the ideal way of playing Cynthia is in Ghost Dual Striker. On the turns where Cynthia messes around using Ghost Wish or Shadow Force, another Ghost Striker can capitalize from the gauges, and the Ghost Zone boost to make up for Cynthia is DPS. This way, 1-5 Renegade Cynthia can off-type much more easily in Champion Stadium to give you better pull value. Partnering Renegade Cynthia with Anniversary Lily and Fantina goes without saying, but for example, you can use a budget team like Sycamore plus Giovanni. Under Ghost Zone, Shadow Ball Giovanni matches his Psychic Terrain DPS. You can also pair Cynthia with Morty and Driftblim. If you maximize a Blind Spot, Morty is a Ghost Zone nuke hits about as hard as Getsy's, which is much more devastating at 6-star EX potential. Then there is Ghost Zone Alistair. G-Max Terror is frightening after a 6-star EX support buff. You can set up a Toxic Power tree on center, easily denial a Sidemon with Ghost Zone G-Max Terror, and spam Shadow Ball afterwards. Renegade Cynthia Dual Strike just works because you need to realize that she facilitates damage. Cynthia has a similar playstyle to Bianca, but if you really want to, 6-star EX 3-5 Cynthia deletes stuff with her nuke. You spare her with your special defense debuffer of preference, and she can spam Shadow Force to dodge attacks to get easy wins in Champion Stadium. And now that the Legendary Gauntlet is a thing, Cynthia's ability to dodge dangerous attacks with Shadow Force is really handy. Now, 1-5 Renegade Cynthia has nothing useful on her grid. 2-5 yields a couple move multipliers with Super Duper Effective 2 and Shadow Ball Super Duper Effective 1. Good and simple, yet conditional. This is another reason for why Cynthia's DPS suffers off-type. Like, Chantal with Power Surge 2 has better off-type DPS than Cynthia. What the hell, man? The full grid has the delete button. This is par for the course for text these days, so it doesn't particularly impress me. Brainsync 5 procs immediately when Cynthia uses her training move, so that's free. Smarty Pants is tougher, because special defense debuffers are far and between. Cynthia herself can reasonably bump up special defense debuffs with Shadow Ball Honor Roll 2 and Sundering 9. But remember her rotation. Before reaching First Sync, Cynthia has to use her training move, and then she has to use Ghost Wish, and then she can start spamming Shadow Ball. Unless you pair her with Hilbert or something, Cynthia realistically only gets one shot at debuffing special defense. So she needs a partner for it. Valentine's Dawn is the perfect tech for Sing Nuke Renegade Cynthia. With her trainer move, Dawn can top off Cynthia's offensive stats and then spam Fake Tears to ensure your target is at -6 special defense. And as a cherry on top, Dawn is a Xeno Sync pair, so she improves Xeno Flag Bearer. And you can get really creative with Cynthia's nuke. For example, I have seen people use Guild Trip Fantina and intentionally sacrifice her just to get the special defense debuffs after mismade use feints. And I have also seen people maintain Super Shadow to transfer it onto Cynthia Sync. The way you do that is use a Shadow Force right before the enemy is going to use a Sync move, so the enemy stops Shadow Force from happening, and then you get to keep the super effective up next buff for Cynthia's attack. The only thing I don't like about the Smarty Pants is that Cynthia's Sync move is physical, so you lose that debuff cohesion unless you bring Signasuit Leaf or some such. The rest of Cynthia's utility is situational. Haunted Healing 1 offers Regeneration Tier Recovery. Sync Quickening 1 recharges a Shadow Force move point when Cynthia syncs. I would never see myself spending energy on Sync Stat Reboot. Ghost Wish, Group Moral Boost 4 and Pep Talk 4 have a 50% chance of raising special attack and attack for a party respectively. It's good in case Cynthia's partner needs help buffing. And there are some Ghost Wish MGR tiles and MPR too. But realistically, if you reach the 3-5 Renegade Cynthia, it's for her nuke. So go do something like this. If you want Cynthia to stack special defense debuffs by herself, then go get Shadow Ball on a roll too. I would not recommend playing 3-5 Renegade Cynthia as a support, but I can see it justified with 6-star EX Morty, for example. His AoE nuke wipes stages faster with New Year's Lily support. So yeah, Renegade Cynthia is a phenomenal unit. I just feel she's a touch below Anniversary and she's tougher to use. If you want Cynthia to really impress you, she needs 3-5. 1-5 is enough for Ghost stages and to enable other Ghost Strikers. Up next, we have New Year Sabrina and Chingling, a Psychic type seasonal support. Her banner is gone, but I suppose you want me to reassure you if you skipped Sabrina. I think she's okay, could have been a lot better. The deal with Chingling is that its only move is Confusion, and this special attack stat is Dogshit. So this is a pure utility sync pair. Pokémon like Alakazam and Celesteela have good support kits with a modicum of offensive presence, so they can pitch in during battle. This is more like Skyla. Sabrina is there for buffs and a 1-bar spam. If you want to be pedantic, you can turn Skyla into a striker, but that's not the point. If we are spending a slot on pure utility, it better be damn good. And New Year Sabrina suffers from a fundamental issue where her phone perks lack consistency. So let's take a look at the aspects of Sabrina we can rely on. Sabrina has good tanking stats, similar to Folk Kaylin. Confusion is a 1-bar spam with MGR 9 on the grid. Sabrina has X special attack call, so she can enable multiple partners at once. And she can cap out a special attack with an MPR 2 or X special attack all ramped up 1 on her 3-5 grid. Sabrina also has a Condition Shield. This prevents all sources of status conditions, including secondary effects, from affecting the party. And the third move is a potion that grants Endure. I quite like this. It allows Sabrina to do some clutch Endure tanking in aggressive 2k Master Mode strats. 1 HP is all you need, so with good turn move management, Sabrina can hang on regardless of the strength of the move she has to tank. Further, you can use this on Sabrina's partners as well. I toyed around with Licia Endure tanking with this, and because this trainer move has multiple uses, you can enable power reserves very easily with it. Notice Sabrina's base kit lacks defensive buffs. Her full grid has guarded entry and this new passive that raises defense and or special defense when Chingling receives damage. But this is unlike traditional tanks. A tank wants fast defensive buffs to tank better. I find that Sabrina often falls back on endure tanking rather than handling raw damage. So Sabrina is similar to Cheryl and Blissey, but with a 6-star EX. They both buff a special attack, they have a potion, and they have a status recovery. Chingling is raw speed, and 1-bar spam kind of make up for Cheryl's speed buffs. The key difference here is that Sabrina is a more consistent tank thanks to Endure. So the rest of Sabrina's functions are random, and you can't rely on her for shit. Aggravation 4 raises confusion its chance to confuse to 50%. It can be handy to enable Fuzzy Strike for Bossma, for example, but it's unreliable. It's more so handy to crowd control Simons to prevent damage. Sharp Teamwork is a new passive that gives Sabrina a chance to raise crit for the party when she lands a move successfully. But at a 30% rate, this might as well not happen in a quick Champion Stadium match. And given the fact that it's tied to confusion, Sabrina has to distract herself from using her trainer moves in order to fish for a proc. This is good for Battle Villa climbing, I suppose, but I have never consciously gone for Sharp Teamwork except to help Cyrus proc Critical Focus. Then we have Sabrina's real distinguishing niche, which is Team Smart Command 2. When Sabrina uses a trainer move, she has a 30% chance of proccing a special move up next for a party. That's quite good. A special move up next has the same rules as physical move up next. It's a 40% special move damage increase, and it can stack up to 10 times. So the idea here is that Sabrina was given a bunch of trainer moves to proc Team Smart Command and strengthen her teammates. But what is it in service of? A 30% chance. Even if Sabrina is on full-on trainer move spam duty, you will need resets to practice. What we're left with is an array of passives that may or may not happen. So we have to look at Sabrina a different way. She is a fast special attack support with a potion plus endure, and she happens to have a chance of proccing a special move up next as a bonus for her partners. Confusion has perks to it, but Sabrina is often better off juggling trainer moves to fish for Team Smart Command. This means Sabrina doesn't consume gauges, but she also doesn't generate speed. I have played Sabrina a bit. Her core functions are okay, but she is trying to do a lot of things at once. And Team Smart Command probably won't change the tide of a battle, even if it procs. Well then, 1-5 Sabrina has X special attack all NPR2. That's a 30% chance to maximize a special attack or continue proccing Team Smart Command. 2-5 has Quick Cure, Guarded Entry, and Healthy Healing for some much needed defensive utility. Confusion MGR9 is amazing and enables Sabrina to sleep chain consistently in Legendary Arena. And Confusion Team Fast Track 2 is also decent. For what it's worth, Chingling has a really good speed stat for a support, so with a few speed procs, it can sustain gauge. But I would rather attempt Team Smart Command procs. This is better for Legendary Gauntlet though. There is also some Psychic Terrain stuff, but Sabrina is not a good fit for the archetype. Bianca needs grid, and that's above Sabrina cannot guarantee. Now, a fully gridded Sabrina has an interesting 6-star EX mode. She gains Recuperation 2 and Sync Free for All. This grants free move next when Sabrina syncs for the first time. This gives Sabrina a function as a pseudo Ingo of sorts. This allows Sabrina's partners to spam heavy attacks without having to worry about gauge for a little bit. Remember, Sabrina cannot generate speed outside of Confusion and Team Fast Track, so unless Sabrina's beneficiaries have means of generating gauge, it's difficult to enable a dual strike with Sabrina. Team Tough Luck is the passive I mentioned earlier that allows Sabrina to buff defense and or special defense for the party when she receives damage. Then we have Condition Shield Group Therapy. This allows Sabrina to proactively clear status if something managed to sneak through Condition Shield. Sabrina also has Turn Move NPR 2 and Master Healer 2. That's decent. Funnily enough, it's the same potion efficiency as Cheryl, as if I wanted that comparison to continue. Lastly, Premonition 2 works like Electro Repulsion on Volkner. Psychic Terrain offers a damage filter for Sabrina, which makes her quite tanky. I typically wouldn't bring a Chingling for Bianca. Sabrina more so enables Giovanni or some such. Sabrina's grid offers a lot of options, which makes her difficult to customize. You would like her to perform all her functions at once, but you can't. So you have to adjust depending on the stage and grab the passives that synergize best. But you're here for a baseline, so I will recommend something like this. Take all the potion tiles, gather the entry for defensive buffs, and ramp up the one so Sabrina can reliably maximize a special attack for her partners. If you want to capitalize off of Sabrina's 6-star EX, I would suggest taking Recuperation 2 and Sync Free for All. This works better for DPS modes in a quick Champion Stadium match, but again, it all depends on your needs. Maybe you want potion tiles with Confusion MGR9 and Team Fast Track 2. Maybe you do want a Chingling to buff Giovanni in Psychic Terrain, so Premonition 2 would help more. It depends. Ultimately, I am not particularly impressed by Sabrina's kit. There are multiple special strikers with fast grid that Sabrina can enable, like Koga, Silver, Giovanni, Barry. It's just Team Smart Command is too random to give Sabrina better value. Up next, we have New Year's Volkner Electivire, an electric type seasonal striker. Right off the bat, Volkner has a funny issue where he suffers from being Volkner. You know, suffering from success. What I mean is that you cannot use Luxray on the same team as Electivire, and Luxray is the premier electric type support because of Electric Terrain. Now, Electivire can summon Electric Terrain with its innate conductive sync. This is a shower sync equivalent. But this only summons Electric Terrain after first sync. If you want to nuke with Electivire under Electric Terrain, you need Classic Elesa, so keep that in mind. As a striker, Volkner's goal is dealing as much damage as possible, so how does he go around it? Volkner has solid striker stats, a little squishy, but nothing out of the ordinary. Electivire is the first striker in a really long time to not possess a 4-bar move. It's got Discharge and Thunder. This is interesting. You have the AoE option and a single target. Both of these moves have a 30% chance to paralyze, which gives Volkner some TK utility, and he does have paralysis-based multipliers in his grid. Akin to Signature Red, however, Thunder is much stronger than Discharge. Discharge can be better if you want Volkner to paralyze the enemy field, or if you don't want to deal with Thunder's shaky accuracy. You can fix Thunder a couple ways. Thunder is perfectly accurate in rainy weather, or you can buff +2 accuracy. Typically, you need 3 accuracy buffs to fix Thunder, but Volkner's base grid has a Thunder accuracy +10 tile. You only need a couple accuracy buffs with that. So, Volkner is a slow ramping striker. He has X special attack and his turn move buffs +2 speed, +1 accuracy, and +1 crit. You want a support to help him out. A team like Torchic plus Classic Elesa would work perfectly well in Champion Stadium. However, I want you to pay attention to Volkner's passives. When Volkner deals super effective damage, he gains super effective up next. He has a 30% chance of applying free move next, and with his grid, he can raise crit and special attack. Volkner's gimmick is that he stems benefits from continuously attacking in super effective contexts. This doesn't mean he is useless off-type. As a matter of fact, Volkner has a similar efficiency to N and Zekrom, both on-type and off-type. But if you invested in Volkner, his fun passives need an electric weak target. I would suggest against using Volkner unless you hard invest the 6-star EX 3-5. Wi-Fi Volkner is essentially a gacha version of Hau. Like, Super Duper doesn't give him an advantage over Hau because Volkner cannot use Electric Terrain without Classic Elesa. Volkner catches up in damage post-sync with Conductive Sync, but Hau makes up for that with his Inertia Nuke anyway. 6-star EX 3-5 Volkner is a monster, however. He's an easy bet for best electric striker in the game. 1-5 Volkner has Thunder accuracy +10, so you can fix Thunder with Volkner's turn move alone. And Life can be handy for Cresselia Legendary Arena now that the Legendary Gauntlet is a thing. 2-5 Volkner has Super Crit 9. When you deal super effective damage, Volkner buffs crit, so he can maximize the stat. You just have to supply the special attack and Volkner is good to go. Volkner also has Static Shock for a paralysis-based sync multiplier. Note that when Discharge is AoE, it only has a 15% chance to paralyze. Hence, you still want Classic Elesa support to guarantee an AoE Static Shock nuke. Fast Track 9 raises Volkner's speed when he attacks. Shock Recovery is nice, but Volkner hardly makes use of it. Pinpoint Entry 1 grants an accuracy buff when Volkner enters the field, so you could grab Thunder accuracy +10 and use Volkner's turn move once to then spam Thunder alongside a support that quickly raises a special attack. This would be optimal-ish for a 2-5 Volkner, I guess. 3-5 has the delete button. With Double Down 3 and Static Shock 8, I think Volkner has the strongest striker sync nuke in the game, in account of Super Duper and Classic Elesa support. It's enough to erase Electric Weak Stages Fear Sync at a minimum, so a 6-star EX boost is heavily recommended here. At this point, Volkner also has BP multipliers with Ramming Speed and Thunder Paralysis Synergy too. But these are off the beaten path, and I recommend against them when Volkner is nuking mode is much more efficient. No electric striker out-nukes Volkner, so it's not like he has to play DPS for an electric striker. Then there is the random utility. Super Savvy buffs a special attack when Volkner deals super effective damage. This is very attractive and grants Volkner with some self-sufficiency. Super Sinker grants super effective up next post-sync, but things should be there after Volkner syncs anyway. Thunder's Super Countdown 1 is a propulsion equivalent when attacking super effectively with Thunder. Soften Up 1 guarantees Volkner is nuke, but you have to cut down some sinking power in order to use it. Volkner is so strong on type, it probably doesn't matter anyway. The standard Volkner grid is a nuking mode and looks like this. You just want all the sync multipliers, but again, you need support from Torchic or some switch to make it happen. If you want Volkner to buff by himself, go do this instead with Super Creed and Super Savvy. If you want Volkner to do DPS in Legendary Arena, you do this instead. Ramming Speed is his best and most consistent BP multiplier. I have no complaints about Volkner. He's really strong and his full grid alleviates his buffing shortcomings. But Oak and Hau are readily available as electric type damage alternatives. You have to invest super hard on Volkner so he carries his weight. Last but not least, we have Lucas and Dialga, a Dragon type tech Pokefair. Our boy is finally home. So, much like Renegade Cynthia, Lucas possesses Dragon Zone. His purpose in life is enabling Dragon types with a 50% multiplier. I like Lucas a lot better than Renegade Cynthia. He does what she attempts to do, but without dumb gimmicks. Lucas' stats are good. His special attack is below average, which hurts his output. Lucas' DPS is not the most impressive thing I have witnessed. He routinely gets out DPS'd by his fellow Dragon types, but not as badly as Renegade Cynthia, because he's got Roar of Time. This is a 4-bar move and it's 90% accurate, which means it gets better base power. It's above moves like Moonguy's Beam. Here we have Dragon Wish. Same deal as Renegade Cynthia is Ghost Wish, but for Dragon type moves and Sync moves. Then we have X Speed Plus to help with gauge management, and Lucas does have Inertia as a Sync multiplier, so he can maximize that by himself. But what I like the most about Lucas is his Trainer move. It has one use. It raises a special attack by 2 stages, accuracy by 1, and crit by 3. In a count of Grand Entry 4, Lucas has a perfect buffing kit. He maximizes his offenses in 1 turn with 0 drawbacks. Grand Entry 4 is very interesting. It's an instant buff that doesn't require clicking a trainer move, similar to Raihan. If you grab Roar of Time accuracy tiles, you can provide Lucas with a +2 special attack and a +3 crit, so he can afford to skip his trainer move for a more aggressive rotation. Conversely, you can use X Speed Plus twice, buff Lucas with Sabrina and Alakazam or whomever, and have Inertia ready to go on their Dragon Zone in 3 turns. See, this is different from Renegade Cynthia. Lucas' buffing kit gives you options. Lucas' innate tech multiplier activates with Dragon Zone. Very simple and cohesive. But a game changer for Lucas is commanded freebie 9. When Lucas uses a trainer move, it grants free move next. Dragon Wish happens to be a trainer move, so it also procs this. Lucas has an interesting rotation where he can oscillate between trainer moves to free up gauges, which is meant specifically for play in dual strike team compositions. And given Lucas' offensive autonomy, you can dedicate your support to supplement the needs of the striker Lucas enables through Dragon Zone. Commanded freebie is a lot better than Invigorating Shadow because Lucas has to rotate X-Speed Plus instead of a 2-turn Shadow Force. He generates gauge while making his next move a freebie. And given the fact that Dragon Wish grants a freebie, Lucas' striking partner can spam moves liberally without interrupting Lucas' DPS. Much like Renegade Cynthia, you want Lucas to play in a dual strike to make up for the damage he loses because he is obligated to cast a Dragon Zone. Now, if you want Lucas to perma-spam Roar of Time, he will suffer from gauge issues unless you use a heavy-duty gauge support like Ingo or Signature Blue. But Dialga, in and of itself, won't interfere with gauge if you rotate X-Speed Plus carefully. Lastly, Lucas has Adrenaline 1. It's sort of irrelevant, because 1-5 Lucas enables 6-star EX Cyrus to clean sweep Dragon Week content, who is a freebie. And off-type, 1-5 Lucas prefers a 6-star EX support buff for play in Dual Strike. At 3-5, Lucas erases center mons Fierce Sync, so side mons should be dead by the time Lucas reaches a second sync. Adrenaline 1 kind of goes to waste. I would have preferred Head Start 1. So, I have zero complaints about Lucas. Dragon Zone fixes his average damage ceiling. He is a perfect striker, and Commanded freebie enables dual strike without breaking a sweat. Lucas' only downside is that he is a pure damage unit. It's unlike Cynthia, who has utility with Sundering 9 and Shadow Force dodges. I know I keep comparing them, but Lucas and Signature Cynthia serve a similar role, and their banners have the same duration, so most people are picking one over the other. Another key difference between Renegade Cynthia and Lucas is the metagame surrounding them. Like, sorry, but Dragon-type strikers are plentiful and much more powerful than Ghost-type strikers, with the exception of Anniversary Lily. Like, Dragon-type meta has a couple legendary freebies, Champion Iris, Signature Leon, Lance. Ghost-type meta has Alistair, Giovanni, Fantina, Morty. Anyway, 1-5 has Roar of Time Accuracy +5 and Sand Shelter. These tiles are specific for Ingo Dual Strike. You avoid Sandstorm Recoil and can skip Lucas' turn move thanks to Ingo's buffs. Although Roar of Time remains 95% accurate and it can miss, so be wary of that. 2-5 has a sync multiplier in Draconic Sync 4. Similar deal to Solar Flare Signature Erika. It's the same multiplier as Lucas' innate tech multiplier. Draconic Sync overlaps and requires no additional setup other than casting your field effect. Here, Lucas can also fully fix Roar of Time accuracy without resorting to his turn move. The Roar of Time NGR4 doesn't really help with gauge management. Like, if Lucas wants to spam Roar of Time in Dual Strike, you need a support capable of generating an absurd amount of gauge. Or perhaps you remove the 4 move bar option in Champion Stadium. So if Lucas has to rotate X Speed Plus anyway, the MGR doesn't really help. With 2-5 Lucas, I would do something like this and then go to town with Ingo, using Lucas' Sync as a closing move. 3-5 has the delete button. Here, Lucas gains inertia, sinking tiles, and a super command 4. When Lucas uses a terror move, he has a 50% chance of proccing super effective up next. And remember, Dragon Wish is a trainer move, so it counts for the purposes of proccing super command. There are a couple ways of going around Lucas' nuke. You either maximize his speed or complete his special attack and crit, because Lucas can go one way or the other. Supports like Skyla, Rachel, Roxanne, Cheryl, Ingo, Sabrina, Custom Jasmine, all of them can help Lucas complete his nuke. Lucas is exceptionally easy to set up. You just have to maximize his stats. Then we have utility. Natural Remedy was on the 2-5 grid, but I don't really care for it. Lucas shouldn't be tanking. Piercing Gaze is pointless because the accuracy tiles or Lucas' terror move fix Roar of Time accuracy. This more so helps for stages that raise evasion, like Cresselia Legendary Arena or Dragon Week How. Draconic Power 2 is a 20% multiplier on their Dragon Zone. You should always take it. Draconic Acceleration 2 improves the move gauge on their Dragon Zone. Typically, Lucas grids cannot afford it, and with Commanded Freebie, his gauge is fine. But certain team compositions benefit from Draconic Acceleration, like Lance or Signasuit Leon Dual Strike. Then there is Roar of Time Mind Games 4. That's a 50% chance to debuff a special defense. I dig this. Lance in particular benefits a lot from Mind Games, but enemies should be dead by the time the Mind Games debuffs become relevant. Standard on-type Lucas looks like this. Just go for a full nuke. Otherwise, you play for Mind Games utility while preserving Lucas' nuke as much as possible. If you want a lot of gauge to help Lance, then you sack a sinking tile for Draconic Acceleration. There isn't a whole lot to talk about here. Lucas is straightforward. He's an easy top tier striker. But well, we're finally done with this video. Hopefully by the time I upload this, I don't get fucked up by a data mine again. But I am pretty sure that it's going to release on the day after this video comes out. So here's hoping for the best. And hey, hopefully the sync pairs on the next data mine won't be as powerful as Renegade Cynthia or Lucas. So you can make a more informed decision on who to pull. But yeah, thank you for watching, take care, and I hope to see you another time.